On today's episode of What's Going On with Shipping, is this the end of the Gaza Pier? I'm your host, Sal Mercogliano. Welcome to today's episode. So we have been following the trials and tribulations of the Joint Logistics Over the Shore JLOTS Pier established by the U.S. military off of Gaza. This came in response to President Biden's State of the Union address, where he announced a humanitarian aid effort to deliver food and aid into the region. The U.S. military has had difficulty in not just establishing the JLOTS Pier, but maintaining it. Now, lots of stories are abounding that the pier mission is over, an investigation is about to be launched into the pier, plus we have some first-hand reporting from the pier showing the exact conditions on board. We're going to take a look at all of that in this episode. If you're new to the channel, hey, take a moment, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you'll be alerted about new videos as they come out. This is a story from AP. The U.S. removes Gaza aid pier due to weather and may not put it back. When you look at weather, the key metric here is wave height. The Joint Logistics Over the Shore JLOTS Pier is designed to operate up into Sea State 3. That's about a 3-foot wave height, and you'll see why 3 feet wave height is the maximum that they can operate in here. But if you look at the upcoming weather here for the region in and around Ashdod, this is just north of Gaza, you'll see on Saturday into Sunday, we've got wave heights of over 3 to 4 feet, and then it subsides, but then kicks back in next weekend. And this has been kind of the cyclical pattern we've been seeing with these waves getting high. We saw the pier break loose. We had issues with the pier being damaged and then having to reset it. They pulled the pier for a second time due to incoming weather, and now they're pulling it for a third time coming off. The question is, how effective has the pier been? This is a report by CBS reporter on the pier in Gaza discussing the situation.
We're here on the U.S. military-built pier that is taking humanitarian aid into Gaza. And it costs around $230 million to build. And in the 2 months or so that it's been online, it's only really been operational for around 16 days or so. And in that 16 days, all we've seen is around 400 truckloads of aid make it into Gaza, where the situation is so desperate. And when you consider the fact that before the October 7th attacks, that around 500 truckloads a day were making it into Gaza, it is barely enough for those who so desperately need it. We've been told by U.S. Army officers that the pier is improving, and they've seen a considerable increase in the volume of aid getting into Gaza. But it's nowhere near what is needed for people who most aid agencies agree are facing severe famine.
So that report by CBS gives you a good encapsulation. The noise you heard in the background, that kind of metal on metal, that is the pier actually fluxing and moving, and we're going to see a little bit more of that. But the key metric there is that they have not been able to get what's called throughput. The throughput is the amount of cargo daily going across the pier into Gaza, and there's several limitations that you'll see when we look at this. But the other big issue here is that within the United States, there's a lot of opposition to the pier. This story over in G-Captain, senior Republican demands Biden administration shut down Gaza aid pier. Republican lawmakers who lead the House Armed Services Committee have written to the Biden administration formally demanding it shut down its aid pier off the coast of Gaza. The U.S. military has been authorized to operate it until the end of July, but the U.S. Agency for International Development officials said this week that the administration could seek to extend it for another month. This is from the HASC's chairman, Mike Rogers. Quote, "I urge the administration to immediately cease this failed operation before further catastrophe occurs and consider alternate means of land and air-based humanitarian aid delivery." Aid first began arriving via the U.S. pier on May 17th. This is after 2 months of buildup to get the material over there and all the equipment needed. Remember, it was March 9th when we first started seeing the movement of gear, where nearly all the 2.3 million residents of Gaza have been displaced. Goes on, rough seas have damaged the pier, forcing repairs, and poor weather has limited the days of operation. Rogers wrote, as of June 19, JLOTS has only been operational about 10 days and has only moved 3,415 metric tons onto the beach in Gaza. According to U.S. military data, as of Tuesday, 8,332 pallets have been delivered via the pier, but around 84% of them have been sitting on Gaza's coast in a marshalling area waiting to be picked up. The operation is complex, involving 1,000 U.S. military personnel. The Pentagon estimates the first 90 days of operation will cost about $230 million. The second story comes from Maritime Executive. U.S. launches coordinated review of troubled Gaza Pier and aid mission. The Inspector Generals from the U.S. Department of Defense and U.S. Agency for International Development confirmed that they are launching coordinated independent oversight projects to review the delivery and distribution of U.S. humanitarian aid to Gaza. According to the joint announcement, the two agencies will review key aspects of their shared mission to provide humanitarian assistance to Gaza. It goes on here with a comment from the DoD Inspector General Robert Storch. The DoD, OIG, and the USAID OIG are working together to address the challenges associated with this mission. The commentary continues. After taking longer than expected to implement, the pier started operations approximately 6 weeks ago under what the U.S. said would be a temporary effort to increase the flow of aid into Gaza. U.S. Central Command on Monday said the pier had been in continuous operation between June 19th and 24th. They said that Sunday had been the largest single day with 1.58 million pounds of aid delivered, a total of just over 3 million pounds over the course of the weekend. U.S. officials have said that since the start, it was a temporary program that would only be possible till the fall before weather conditions deteriorated. CENTCOM, in its last update on Monday, reported since May 17th, more than 6,206 metric tons, 13.6 million pounds of humanitarian aid have been delivered from the pier to the marshalling area, where it can be collected by humanitarian organizations for distribution. So whenever anyone tries to make something sound bigger than it is, they break down to the lowest measurement possible. In this case, going down to 13.6 million pounds of humanitarian aid. But I'm a shipping guy, and when you look commercially, a commercial shipping container can carry about 20 tons. 6,206 metric tons converts into 310 containers. Moving 310 containers worth of cargo over 2 months is not great throughput at all. And there's a big question about why that happens. At the same time, U.S. Department of Defense released a video showing operations on the pier that I want to break down for you. So I'm going to have this entire video available to you so you can take a look at it. I'm going to pause it here at times because they show some really interesting aspects of the pier. A lot of this is prep work going into the pier. So again, this gives you an idea of the movement of the pier. No idea why they're sawing a mooring line there. That's an interesting operation. This right here, I think, is one of the best images you see. So you get the visualization of this pier moving up and down. There's almost no sea state there. You're maybe not even a foot or so there. But you get the movement of the pier here as it moves up and down. Here, sections of the pier are being moved by a Army ST, a small tug. This is the operation on the area. Notice at night how it calms down. That's kind of a very beautiful picture of the Trident Pier. This imagery here shows you some of the vessels involved. So that is the USNS Stockham. That is one of the maritime pre-positioning ships. This is the ship that was specifically broken out after the USNS Bobo broke down. You'll see it has its stern ramp down. It is on to the RRDF, the roll-on, roll-off discharge facility. These are some of the Army and Navy watercraft that are in the area. And this is an Army LSV, logistics support vessel, coming in to load cargo onto the LSV. The LSV is the connector. It will go from this floating pier here back to the Trident Pier and offload the cargo ashore. And you can see cargo coming here onto the roll-on, roll-off discharge facility. The Stockham here either would run to Cyprus or take vessels alongside, take the cargo on board, and do this transfer. Just some images here of cargo moving. You can see commercial trucks coming off. So one of the things I do want to note is they're using commercial trucks to move the cargo. This is one of those LSVs, one of those logistics support vessels, onto the Trident Pier. They are taking these commercial trucks off the Trident Pier, bringing them out to the anchorage and transferring cargo onto the commercial trucks. They're not taking the commercial trucks, I don't believe, into the Military Sealift Command cargo ships. Instead, they're doing this out at the anchorage, meaning that this is really inefficient. You're moving cargo a lot. It's one of the reasons why this tends to be really, really slow in the movement of cargo ashore. This is a breakbulk operation. This is the most inefficient way to move things. When you're moving cargo by pallet, the commercial world got out of this a long time ago because this is not an efficient way to move it. This is why we use containers. It looks like Benvida's loading cargo in Cyprus. And you'll see they're putting the cargo onto military haulers. Those are military cargo haulers. But you don't ever see those type vessels go ashore, which means those vessels drive the cargo down to the floating pier, and then those pallets are taken off the military haulers and put onto commercial trucks. Again, you are handling cargo in multiple ways. This is the motor vessel Sagamore. This is the vessel that was chartered to move cargo. Here you clearly see UAE aid material. This is just really not efficient because of a lot of the restrictions that have been put on this operation. The fact that you cannot put boots ashore, meaning you've got to handle the cargo multiple times. So when I see an image like this really kind of just drives me crazy as a commercial guy, because this is not the way you want to move cargo. It is just slow, and it is not a good way to do it. Some more images here. A lot of work to keep this pier up. Because of the movement on and around the pier, it will suffer damage, and so you're always welding. Those are actually sections of the pier there. They're modular. They fold up. That's a spreader bar. That's how you lift containers on and off. And here you see some of that watercraft. A modular causeway tug right there. This is part of the Trident Pier that's going in. You can see it flexing. You're always using those long pry bars. You don't put your fingers in between anything on this. Really slow operation. It's hot. Military's got to be in full gear. Causeway or no way. That's a great flag right there. This is them actually anchoring the Trident Pier. They actually set out anchors to make sure that pier, when it goes ashore, doesn't move. Fenders for moving across, and you just see the pier moving here. This is them setting up portions of the pier. They assemble them so those pieces come together, part of the security. Dogs sniffing for bombs and explosives on board. Lots of forklifts. A lot of movement. That's obviously loading equipment previously in a port. That movement out at sea, and then those commercial trucks coming off here. A lot of rigging. You can understand how people get hurt in this because of it's really a manpower intensive operation. Here they are directing those commercial trucks onto the Trident Pier to go ashore into Gaza. Again, this is not a great way to move it. Some people are talking about this is how they bring weapons into Gaza. Believe me, there's more efficient ways to do this. There are plenty of commercial vessels going into ports in Israel that are delivering U.S. military aid to Israel. They are not doing it via this method into Gaza. These are pallets of food and supplies that are largely just sitting on the beach in these marshalling yards right now, waiting to be moved. And here you see the trucks moving off the beach area and being moved. All right, I had to stop the video for this one image right here. So this is the Army small tug 912, the Fort Moultrie. This is one of 16 small tugs built for the U.S. Army right around the beginning of the century, right around 2000 came in. I think this one was built right around 2002. This is a ridiculously small tug. I want to know how the Fort Moultrie got to off Gaza, because I have no idea how that tug got there. I hope they lifted it onto a ship and carried it over there. Please tell me that the Army did not sail this thing across the Atlantic over there. I am hoping it was loaded on one of the larger vessels, the Stockham, Benvidas, the Lopez. They could all handle loading that tug on board. So I'm hoping they carried it over. But these are something the feature of the U.S. Army had for a long time, were tugboats, because you need them in these type of operations to move cargo around. Just hats off to the Army watercraft crew and the Navy crews that are out there. I'm not meaning to criticize the Army and Navy crews along with the merchant mariners that are out there. They're doing the best job they can do it. It's just, if you were taking fully loaded containers and moving them ashore, this would be a much more efficient operation. And you could do that. You can load fully loaded containers and move them ashore. This would be a seamless operation if they were doing it, and you wouldn't need all this equipment that you're seeing here and the movement of cargo. You get the idea of how manpower, personnel intensive this operation is. So this one really got me too. Diving at night. This must be doing repairs on the pier. Obviously, after the accident or after the weather came in and clearing it, you tend not to dive at night. It tends to be a little bit dangerous to do that. So that video, I think, is very informative. It shows you a lot of what we haven't been seeing about it. So what happens with the Gaza Pier now? I don't know. Again, if you want to deliver humanitarian aid into Gaza, the best way to do it is through the ports in Egypt and Israel and drive them across the border. That's the best efficient way to do it. You have port facilities. You can increase your throughput. You can bring fully loaded containers in. That is the way to move cargo. A JLOTS operation is efficient for military operations, but the way they're doing the JLOTS operation now with having to pick the cargo up, store it on the vessel, then transload it onto trucks out at the anchorage, and then move it ashore is just not efficient in any manner whatsoever. And that's been one of the limitations. 310 containers worth of aid, great, fantastic, but they could be delivering a lot more if they used a more efficient manner. And there are other alternatives to JLOTS they could have looked at. Did videos on this that examined it. What happens with JLOTS, we don't know. We're waiting to hear what the administration will do. Are they going to yank it and keep it out of there and bring everything back home, or are they going to try to push it for one more month? Weather is going to become a bigger and bigger issue as you get into late summer, early fall in the Mediterranean. And it doesn't take much to get 3-4 foot swells, and you see what it's like on the pier there. Once those swells start coming in and the surf starts coming in, you cannot maintain that pier for very long. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, hey, take a moment, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you'll be alerted about new videos as they come out. Leave a comment, share it across social media, and if you can, support the page. How do you do that? You hit that super thanks button down below, or head on over to Patreon and become a monthly or yearly subscriber. Until our next video, this is Sal, signing off.